Sorry, but you just lost the game. If you have absolutely no idea what I'm talking about, welcome to the game. You're playing now, even if you don't want to be, and there's no way out. In my quest to remember all of the lost things of the internet that I grew up with, I stumbled across this silly little internet game and it sent me right back down memory lane. The concept of the game is to never think about the game. The second you think about the game, you lose. And you just keep losing every time that you think about it. So rather than trying to win the game, the object is mostly to get other people around you to lose with you by trying to get them to think about the game so that you can share in your misery together. Looking back at the game now as an adult, I wanted to answer a couple questions. Where did it come from? Is there a way to win? What's the psychological basis behind it? So I would place the game firmly in the RAR XD chapter of internet history, of the random late 2000s internet humor, perpetuated by middle schoolers in Invader Zim beanies, and loaded up on the red flavor of Vault soda. That was my personal favorite, at least. But the funny thing is, as I researched, I was shocked to learn the real history of the game. Some people trace it all the way back to England in the 1960s. There was a popular mind game in England called Finchley Station. The premise is that each person is supposed to take turns naming a station in the London Underground. The winner is the first person to say Finchley Station. So you might ask, why wouldn't you just start by saying Finchley Station? Or why wouldn't you just say it right after your opponent starts with a different one? Well, where's the fun in that, right? The best play in the Finchley Station game is to say Finchley Station right before your opponent would have said Finchley Station. How are you supposed to know that? That's the fun part, supposedly. The game became really popular in the London area. One group of people, called the Cambridge University Science Fiction Society, developed their own version, where as soon as you think of Finchley Station, you lose. So of course, even though that's a fun concept and would appeal to everyone around the world, being able to name any stations in the London Underground is pretty unrealistic if you don't live there. I've been to London 3 times, and the only station that I remember is Cockfosters, because I'm a 12-year-old deep down inside. So the actual way that the Finchley Station game evolved into the game that we all know today is unknown, but it stands to reason that it was altered so that it would be playable around the world. The first trace of someone posting about the game on the internet came in 2002, when Paul Taylor from Staffordshire, which is a 3-hour drive away from London, mentioned it on his blog. Paul is the perfect piece of evidence to make the argument that the game developed from the Finchley Station game, because being from England, he was likely to know someone who would have played the Finchley Station game, but being far enough from London that he probably couldn't name that many London Underground stations, he was a perfect example of why someone might change the rules. But of course, if you're going to listen to the people who run losethegame.net, which might as well be the official source for all the game-related material. I'm not talking about the rapper, to be clear, in case you made it this far and you're like, hated to love it, the 100 dogs on top. Like, you are in the wrong video. You should go to my other channel where I talk about music stuff. But yeah, so losethegame.net is an official website, as official as it could be for something like this, dedicated to all things the game. And according to them, the origins run a little further than you would think. Actually, a lot further, all the way back to the early 14th century in Germany. A philosopher named Earl Von Hawk, touched on the very psychological trope that defines the game. He explained the paradox that while being detached from something, if you think about how you are detached from it, then you're no longer really detached from it. Think about someone who constantly goes around, claiming they're over somebody. Like, if they were probably really over them, they would stop talking about it. It's like that, but inside your head, I guess. This is the foundation of the ironic processing theory, which is a psych concept that basically says the harder you try to not think about something, the more likely you are to think about it. So the harder you try to delete the game from your brain, the further it'll burrow itself in there just to come back when you least expect it. So flash forward to the 2000s, we got the rise of the internet, and the game became so popular that it was getting written about in newspapers. But of course, the biggest demographic was kids. In 2008, the Canadian press interviewed high school kids in Canada who explained the rules of the game to the adults in the room. And the way the kids describe it checks out pretty much with my own personal experience with the game. One student tells the story of writing a math exam in complete silence and coming upon a question about basketball. The game popped into his head, and he announced out loud that he had lost. 5 others followed, and the class began to laugh, bewildering the teacher watching over the test. It's interactive with everyone. You can have a whole chain of people losing at once, the student said. It's fun to see. Everyone likes to see a bit of unhappiness in everyone else, I guess. Kinda reminds me of my Formspring video. The game also sort of functions like a big secret, since adults didn't really understand what the kids were talking about. But anytime you'd say it out loud to a kid who was in the know, you'd get a reaction. Another 16-year-old student in Vancouver said about half of her classmates knew about the game. She realized how common it was when one of her friends lost at the mall and then announced it out loud, and a bunch of other random people in the mall were like, oh, I also lost the game. Then they had to explain to the lady who worked at the store the concept of the game. Many adults had no idea what was going on, but for kids with unsupervised internet time and a desire to belong to something bigger than themselves, and the desire to share a good meme, it was spreading like wildfire. The Kansas City Star also interviewed a bunch of college students in 2008, so clearly this wasn't just a high school and middle school thing. It was reaching college campuses too. On the internet, the game was all over 4chan, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, the nightmare blunt rotation of websites, and the game could have just kept spreading forever. There was no end to the game, or at least that's what I thought until I checked the official website. See, I had never heard this piece of lore growing up, but one of the college students also mentioned it in the article, and it's really interesting to me. According to the official Lose the Game website, if a specified famous person lost the game in public, the game would end and you would win, I guess. I don't know. Big Sisyphus vibes with this game. I can't tell if you ever actually win or it just stops happening. There isn't a full agreement on which famous person, but some of the people they throw out there are the British Prime Minister, the Queen of England, which is not going to happen anytime soon, am I right? Or the Pope. As far as I know, they've yet to lose the game in public, but for 2 out of 3 of those people, it's never too late. I don't make enough money on YouTube. In fact, I make no money on YouTube, but I definitely don't make enough money on YouTube to dig through the transcripts of all the things that these highly public figures have said since 2008 to confirm that they have never lost the game in public. But if you throw me a like and subscribe, maybe I can start monetizing, and then I'll think about it. How about that? Is that fair? So like many other things on the internet, from the late 2000s, early 2010s, the game kind of faded into obscurity for a while. I used to lose multiple times a day back in middle school and high school, but I probably went multiple years without losing the game in the 2010s. But just like old songs and old conspiracy theories, the game was ripe for TikTok to bring back. And they did. It's become a thing on there a couple different times, but it recently went viral again in 2023. Here's a video from a user named Tori Phantom breaking down the rules for a whole new generation.
What's the game and why are so many people mad that they just lost it? Let me explain. You see, the game is quite simple. Here's how it works. If you know about the game, you're playing the game, and if you think about the game, then you lose. Which means, you guessed it, that you just lost the game. How do you win the game? You don't. You lose the game, get mad, and make other people lose too. Why? I don't know. How do you participate in the game now that you just lost the game? You go tell someone else that they just lost the game. We're all losers. I recommend starting with millennials. They're most likely to know about the game. Go forth and tell folks that they just lost the game. Caveat, if you're gonna come out in someone's video and tell them that they just lost the game, I support it, but read the room. There's a time and a place. Okay, bye.
Now, it's not just crusty millennials and cusp zillennials like me who occasionally get brain blasted and lose the game, or post it in their dying, cobweb-filled high school friends group chat for like 1 or 2 laugh reacts. The game continues on forever. And I think there's something kind of beautiful about these kinds of traditions getting passed on. Like, we see so many like physical trends get repurposed, right? Like the way that like 80s clothes were cool, or like now it's like a Y2K thing, right? Like we're seeing not physical trends, but like concepts or ways of talking or things like that also get repurposed in the nostalgia cycle. You see these 13-year-old kids who weren't even born yet when the Kansas City Star article was written in 2008 about the game, commenting on TikTok like, oh, I lost the game. And it's cool. It's interesting to see these things, you know, move on and perpetuate. And like maybe I can make my grandkids lose the game one day when I'm old. You know, it's kind of nice to think. Most importantly, you'll be happy to know that there's a grace period when you lose the game. I used to play with 15 minutes. You have to wait 15 minutes before you could try to get someone to lose the game again, or it wouldn't count. But I also saw some people say 30 minutes on the internet, so I'll leave that one up to you. Either way, this video will be below the length of that. So you lost when you opened the video. There's really nothing I can do about that for you, but you're good for now. Maybe for like another, 4 minutes. So yeah, leave me a comment if you used to play the game, or if you didn't. Let me know what else I should do a video on. It's been really cool for me to revisit these like late 2000s, early 2010s internet things, and it's like a combo of learning new things about these things that I think I remember, and also just going down memory lane. So I know it's been fun for you guys. Hopefully it stays that way. It's HADJI.